It's with great pleasure that I'm passing the torch for the rest of this session to the GlobalCoast co-chairs, Aleta and Giovanni. So Aleta will chair the breakout session and Giovanni will chair the discussion after. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Okay, so I think we probably all had a productive session for the breakouts for the different regions. That will be the reporting for each of them, and we'll have 10 minutes each. So the first one would be the Western Atlantic area. Oh, no. Who was the first? Oh, there. Okay, I'm looking at this program. It was different. So are we going for the Indian Ocean, West Pacific, Oceania one? Okay, the session that I chaired, apparently, goes first. But Helen, are you here? The problem is people are still missing. Helen's not here yet. Maybe we can do the, who else is, you're not yet ready? I think, who's ready? Eastern Atlantic? Huh? Nikia? Oh yeah, how about Eastern Atlantic? Okay, shit.
Plan B. So let's go to another item that was inserted. We will have Godwill Namo introduce us to a book chapter called Ocean, Marine and Coastal Governance. Thank you. It will be very brief. Godwill, you have 5 minutes for this.
Yes, there should be. I think Marriott should have uploaded a PowerPoint somewhere. Thank you. I'm happy to be the savior for the groups that don't want to present. But I'll just take some 5 minutes whilst you're preparing for your presentations. I was given 5 minutes to just market our project to the group, so that when you find the call coming through the system, you know exactly where it is coming from. So what I'm trying to do here is a simple matter of promoting a book call that is going to come and that is going to reach your emails soon, maybe today, moving forward. I thought maybe I should just start by giving an intro here in terms of some of the work that we are doing in the Institute for Corporate Citizenship at the University of South Africa. One of the arms that we have is doing books, and we have been doing this faithfully since 2008. So we write books edited and co-authored in climate change space. We've got a climate change series. We write on sustainable development goals. We've got a series. We wrote a lot around COVID-19. That first book on counting the cost of COVID-19 on the global tourism industry was the first book in the world, and it has actually received a lot of attention globally. You can check it online. Then we also write books in the series on climate, tropical cyclones, floods, and tornadoes. I also have got an arm for supervising postdoctoral fellows and mentoring postdoctoral fellows and supervising PhD students. Then, of course, the normal duty of writing academic journal articles. Now, you discover here we are starting the series. This is a new series that we are starting to open up area in coastal resilience, ocean, marine, in coastal resilience, ocean, marine, and coastal governance. So already maybe some of you have received a call on climate change and coastal resilience in Africa. We are specifically trying to focus on Africa, which is a project that can be done elsewhere in other regions as well. But the book I'm here to market today or to showcase is the one that is entitled Perspectives in Ocean, Marine and Coastal Governance. So this is actually a global book that we are pitching. So normally when we're doing the books under the Springer series, we make such a call and it's usually oversubscribed. Then we end up maybe setting 2 or 3 volumes. So I'm looking at a situation where we might end up having an African volume and a global volume as the books, the calls are going to come in. This is the last slide in terms of what is it that we are looking for. We have set about 3 thematic areas where you can pitch chapters in. The details are in the core in terms of which chapters or areas you may want to write. So we are looking for chapters around ocean and marine observations. We are looking for chapters around legal and policy perspectives. We are looking for chapters looking at literacy, knowledge production, science diplomacy, and security. We are looking for chapters on ocean and sea accounting. This is quite an interesting area. We are looking for chapters on coastal and marine tourism governance. We are looking for chapters on coastal resilience, access, and livelihoods. That section is important to some of the areas in our regions where I think for those that have been sitting in some of my sessions, I say people at times just need access to the ocean. And there could be racial issues and other undertones that might prevent some of the communities, less privileged communities, to go to the access. And lastly, we are looking at chapters that are going to look at marine pollution and circular economy governance issues. I will stop here, and I hope the groups are now ready to come and present what they were supposed to be presenting. Thanking the organizers for giving me this space to showcase, and we are saying let's come together and start building knowledge, start generating knowledge for the future generations. And the book remains a very good platform moving forward. We know there are other regions that they might not have access, but a book can get to areas where we might not be able to reach. Thank you so much, Vili. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Giovanni. I think they are busy. The one who is running the session, you can come. I am done.
All right, thank you, Godwin. Thank you for that. Okay. Just one quick question. Comment? Question? Okay. Before we have to move.
Very quickly, I'd like to say that I was part of a group of editors that published a book in Springer called Global Change in Africa. It was one of the EC, the International Space Science Institute production. And you should look at that book, Global Change in Africa, see all the authors that contributed to this book, and try to collect them if you want, and maybe cite the book and build on it. Some of the chapters are quite relevant to what's in that book. But contact all the authors, they'll help you.
Okay. Global Change in Africa. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think Helen is ready to report on the Indian Ocean, West Pacific, Oceania side. So Helen Kizenga for our group. We have 10 minutes.
Hello, everyone. I'll be presenting our group on the Indian Ocean and West Pacific and Oceania. So it is quite a very wide and diverse group. So those are our sites, our pilot sites, as you can see on the map. And the regions are divided in the Global Coast Network as it is. So we had quite a wide discussion, especially on the priorities and in the missing points of the building blocks. So what we did is we did a general discussion on this. So we did not divide them into the blocks. So these are the points that were like really important for us, especially in our region. So the first thing that we think it is important is the biogeochemistry tools. These are important, especially now that we are in the climate change and we have like coral bleaching in most of these areas. So these tools will help us to understand like what we are having in the benthic ecology. And then we also need some tools on the harmful algal blooms, on the oxygen, so they can inform like fisheries. And then another thing that we thought was really important was to prioritize on the low-cost sensors. So these our region cannot really afford much of the expensive stuff. So these will be like really important for us. And then we thought it would be really important that we form a network for these sensors so that we can kind of share what we have between the sites and learn from each other. And then another thing, I think everyone was kind of impressed with the HPCC yesterday. And we thought that it would be really good to have an infrastructure of that magnitude. It could be a bit smaller and less costly, but it would be like really good to have a regional kind of a thing that could help us in generating this kind of data. And then what we thought was important is using the satellite remote sensing data in different areas. So we know that most of these are available online, but in most cases you find that scientists or practitioners in these areas do not have the capacity or even do not know that this kind of data exists. So it is an important thing to have this kind of thing. And then we also thought, like with the AI tools, it can help us in like ocean observing, which is something that I think we are currently looking forward to. Another thing that we thought was important is to have regional platform for exchange of data. This is kind of a repetition, but yes. And then we also thought that most of the areas in these regions are kind of vulnerable to like extreme events. So it would be like really important that we enhance people-centered early warning systems in these areas. And this could be like more local tailored, so they kind of owned by the people. So in that sense, we will have like sustainability of these initiatives, and we are sure that in the coming years with climate change and everything, these local communities can actually be able to handle the things that are coming. And then we got into the discussion and everyone was like, okay, we are discussing all these big things, but in most cases, these pilot sites, they do not even have the basic data, like the observational data. So what we need first is to kind of have the observing systems, and the local sensors could be the one of the priority, and the remote sensing data, since they are actually less costly. And then what we also thought was important is that we have all these products that are available and could be made available, but what we need is really to go into the stakeholders. For instance, we have fisheries. We could like call in the stakeholders involved in fisheries, and we understand like what kind of information is kind of important for them, and we could go into other stakeholders as well. So we kind of develop infrastructures that are going to respond to these stakeholders and to these sectors. So yeah, that was also something that we thought was important. And other priorities, we thought it would be good to have like good quality atmospheric forcing, and a lot of people say that we could leverage more on the meteorological centers in our nations so that we can have like good quality data. And another thing that was kind of important as well is that as cost predicts, I'm not sure if this, I'm sure maybe it was done to some extent, but it should identify the hotspots for like disaster hazards, like make sure that these areas are in the global cost network and be the pilots for cost predict, because these are the areas that really need the infrastructures that we are currently proposing. So it would be important to have these hotspots like all over the world and be part of the cost predict. And another thing that we also discussed about, we thought like it would be really good to have kind of a verification loop, because we have all this, we are forecasting and everything, but we need something that will ensure that what is being forecasted and presented maybe to people is something that is really has good quality and could contribute and could lead to more focused forecasts. And then what was like a kind of a concluding thing on these priorities, we thought that the most important thing before going on implementing these menu of solutions would be to do a gap analysis on all the pilot sites to see like what each site need. So we have all these solutions, but not all of them can be applied inside. So it is important to first have a really good analysis and have like what each site needs, so that all the infrastructure kind of slow, because like everyone was is that we need to do a cost-benefit analysis of using these cloud infrastructures, because okay, they are not free. So we should be sure, like, okay, we are going to use this, and how sustainable are they going? Are we going to use them? Understand all the pros and cons of using these infrastructures. And then what was also like discussed is that in most cases, the pilot sites within this region are at ground zero in terms of cloud infrastructure, so that needs like building the capacity and the infrastructure to be able to handle that. And as what was said, I think by Nadia and other people yesterday, we need the good internet. But unfortunately, most of these places, including my country, you really cannot find that strong internet that can handle all this. So that is an important thing. And what was also brought up was like to generate a central portal. The cost predicts to generate kind of a central portal and cloud that can help like share the data and exchange protocols and things like that. Yeah, and then for enhancing capacities, we had like a lot of discussion about that, and we thought that it would be good to enhance the capacity in modeling and building the innovative infrastructures within this region and within the local areas. And also, we thought it was important to have like awareness programs, to have workshops with the communities, so as to make them aware of what is going on and what they can contribute in terms of coastal resilience. And then what was also discussed were the trainings. They should really focus on either specific projects or specific needs. So some of the trainings could be very wide. So if they are kind of focused and they target a specific group, that could be more important. And then another thing that was brought up, which is a kind of a contradictory to that, is that we have an interdisciplinary trainings that could engage different people from different sectors. And then we thought of having like, on the same side of like trainings, thought it would be important to make sure that the trainings we are proposing are actually making an impact. And most people say like most of the trainings are done like to tick the box. So yeah, we shouldn't tick the box and make sure we generate something. And then we have to also conduct like regional-wise trainings, especially with sites that have like similar issues. So this will be important, like to share the ideas and to share the expertise between these areas. And on the last slide, we had a discussion again on the long-term scholarship. We could have like scholarship for early career professionals to be able to like have capacity to do all these things. And then now we thought it would be also important to involve intermediary stakeholders in different sectors. For instance, if we are talking about fisheries, that means you engage like different stakeholders in different areas so that you can have the contribution that is like really important and tailored to their needs. And one thing that was also emphasized is that like the trainings that are being provided by Cost Predict or other that will be provided should also have an online component so that it can involve more people. Like for instance, we could have the training here and maybe 2 people from Africa, 1 person from, I don't know, Caribbean and all that, but if we have online, we are sure that we'll reach more people. So these were the discussions in our group. Thank you.
So I think for the questions, we have time later after all the groups have presented. So we'll go ahead with the next. That's the Western Atlantic already. Okay. Okay, so we have Nikia. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
The last one.
We're all switching around.
It's fine, yeah, there's nothing on it. Okay. Thank you. Yes, that's the right one. I would not like to report on another breakout group that was not in. That would be too bad. We were running the Eastern Atlantic breakout room with Patrick Gorange and Cooper Van Varken. And my name is Emilie Brevier, so I'm just going to try to give you a few bullet points here. So I move here, right? Yeah, so this is just a map of the region of interest. And the guiding questions, which are all number 1, but they will be number 1, 2, and 3. I'm just going directly into the question. So we started the conversation and we quickly seen that the menu of solutions, I think, will need a little bit, we're going to have to get some repetition about this menu of solution and to get it going and get people starting, I think. But few points that were attracting people's attention was really on data. And some of the need that we could extract from the conversation was there's a need for river data. And this from the river mouth to the upstream. There's need for water quality data. So nutrient from nitrogen, phosphate, but also silicate and also different parameters that are useful from the carbonate system for ocean acidification purposes, this kind of water quality data. And this needs to be collocated with river data in order to be useful. There were also expressed a need for subsurface profiles in modeling exercises. I'm just reading at the same time, right? I can't read on here, it's too small, so I have to read over there. And also we touch another point of need and interest is making a better use of the existing infrastructure. There are a lot of infrastructure out there in place, like for example offshore wind farms and fishing vessels, like communities, and these can all be used or because they have data that we could have a direct access to, or they could deploy sensors and instruments and get measure for us. So that was one of the points. I think there's a third point to the first question. Yes. There's also we had a bit of a discussion about models and the fact that to set up models and in different locations in this area and also in different environments, it's generally underestimated the amount of time and resources that are necessary to arrive to something which is really useful. And this, we thought that perhaps could cost predict and the global cost efforts. It could provide best practices, meaning like a portfolio of different way to connect better and for developers to have their work facilitated, for example. And then we jump to the second question. So the second question, actually, we had a lot of confusion when it comes to the cloud. There were, yeah. So we had in the room Annabella, who jumped in and could give us a brief, a brief summary and explanation of what the cloud, and that was extremely helpful. But then we had a bit of a discussion, but it was very difficult. Actually, that part of the discussion created more questions than points of answer to the question. So I think this is quite difficult to pull out anything to this one. But then we moved to the third question, which is on the, yeah, yeah. Obviously we were not the only one. So we jumped to the last bits because we were running out of time as well. And so here we started from the communication point and saying that it's really important to be able to engage more scientists, but also different politicians and everything in between, basically. And from that, then at some point, Cooper mentioned the talks we had yesterday afternoon with the pilot site and the way that the entire room reacted when we saw the tiger. So we're all basic, even if we all nerd in our own way here, we're all very basic human being, that when we see an animal beautiful as a tiger, then suddenly we react. And the point was that it was thought that it's actually very good. All these pilot sites we've seen yesterday, they're very good marketing tools to talk about what we're doing and what we will try to do in Cost Predict. Yeah, and the last point was, yeah, that would not be me if I would not say that one. The multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary approach, and the cultural aspect was also mentioned here. We need to involve more social scientists in our endeavor to overcome all the science policy practitioner interface. This is a massive field of research that we need to tap on. But of course, he came up in the discussion with some conditions and some hurdle to go through, but yeah, it's a needed one. But to finish on a positive note, we also mentioned that the presentation we've seen on the different training, and the one in Philippines and in the other places yesterday morning, they have a lot of social science aspect in it. We saw the legal, we saw the different risk disaster management, all these different aspects. So we have good hope. We know it's a positive point. Let's keep going. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, for the Eastern Atlantic, so we've had different perspectives already. Western Atlantic, right? Just making sure, Nikia. Okay.
Yeah, and I would have just edited whatever we were presented from one time.
From the GlobalCoast political party.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I used what was presented on this one time. Yeah. It's not too bad. Okay.
All right, so I get to share. I had to summarize pages and pages of notes. We're only going to go through the salient points. Anything that I miss, you know, whenever Reba shares the minutes of it, you'll have it. Don't worry about it. Because I did get everything down. So I'm just going to share the important bits, right? So this is our region. We would have broken down our discussion like the similar other regions with each component for the first question. So that's essentially how I laid it out. We had a very clear discussion on the gaps in the region in terms of capacity, what exists, what doesn't exist. And we would have really identified that an opportunity to fill that gap would be to use cost-effective sensors. We even had a bit of a discussion about using cost-effective as a language and not low cost, essentially because it, gets away from the whole issue of is cheap, not reliable. Okay. Yeah, yes, so important. We also identified the global sea level observation systems as an opportunity. They can be included at a later stage. It does not need to be included now. And the acknowledgement of them being included at a later stage came about because we discussed that they have a level of precision that is very expensive and is a little far-reaching, but is something that is also very useful. So might not be yet, but something to keep on a back burner for now. We also discussed the sustainability gap. So in a lot of our countries in the region are not able to sustain observations beyond project life. So how do we, what are the creative solutions to fix that? As well as there was the acknowledgement of observational gap in the subsurface, which is particularly important for biogeochemical monitoring. And as well as there was the acknowledgement that the communication and the connection between the regional goose and the larger goose is not very great. It's something that needs to be improved upon and worked upon, and there were some commitments within the region for that to be done. Thank you, Edgard. Okay, so the second component, because the first component has two bits, the cloud infrastructure, we put straight to the second question, so that's why I'm not covering it right now. So the second component, there was the acknowledgement that outputs need to be more widely shared with all or a range of different users, technocrats, policymakers, not just people who know what a model is and what the utility of the model is, but there's also the need to demonstrate that utility so that everyone understands its applicability. The relationships with our stakeholders need to be understood so that we can then try to inform through the understanding of those needs what our short-term prediction models should be and what it should strive to achieve. We acknowledge that there is the missing regional models, so we do have the access to global models. Some countries have local, we're missing the regional. Coast Predict has committed, is Nadia here? Oh, okay, so I hope she agrees to what she said before. But they've agreed to use the cloud infrastructure that is supposed to be implemented to facilitate the collation of regional data. So towards, trying to fill that gap of the regional models not existing, as well as putting it in a format-friendly way so that different users can use it. And then there was also, that should be gap, sorry, I was being fast. The gap of freshwater loading models that really don't exist for a region, as well as the acknowledgement that there are very few grid models that do exist for the region. Moving on to component 3 of the menu of solutions, there was a commitment to share the regional biogeochemical models that have been developed by NOAA that will be particularly useful for varied applications. As well as the discussion about thinking beyond IPCC scenarios. So in a lot of our local contexts, we have different needs, for example, different things for sea level rise, coastal inundation. So not just thinking, all right, for projection, 4 point whatever or 8 point whatever in 2050, 2100, this is what it's gonna look like. But if this person that lives on the end of this street is going to lose their house in between that 2050 to 2100 period, it might be useful to know when that 50 years they're going to lose their property and when should they be relocated, right? So that's the kind of understanding that we have. There is a need to strengthen the connection with ocean prediction. Is that the right thing? Okay, the regional team of the ocean prediction, where they can help to infill some of the gaps that we have. You know, they do some of the work already. This is my understanding. Yes, and so, you know, I am not a modeler, sorry. And so it can help to infill that gap. And then there was the opportunity for different downscaling modeling experiments using varied outputs. We combined 4 and 5. There was an acknowledgement that they help to inform each other and there's an inherent synergy. So really leveraging that relationship, we discussed both together. We acknowledge that there is the missing element of innovation and entrepreneurship that has been missing from the document. And so it was the acknowledgement that this is a very possible solution for creating sustainable projects. So, you know, really getting those like startup companies, those smaller companies that see coastal resilience and some of the projects that we are suggesting as an opportunity for them to build a small industry, you know, to really get them on board and have that buy-in from this private sector to be able to sustain ocean observations and the outputs that will be coming out of the projects. There is a need for the deeper understanding of stakeholder groups, and that is towards building ocean stewardship and sustainable stewardship. If we know, you know, on this very superficial level, of fisher folk, you know, we know somebody who depends on oysters, crab catchers, sure, that's all well and good and they are very important. But beyond that, who are the other stakeholders that may not be as visible but very integral for sustaining projects? As well as there was a suggestion of having an advisory council on each pilot. So there was an example given of a case study in Florida Keys where a science advisory council was made up of persons with different professional backgrounds, multidisciplinary, and they were able to really advise on various projects in the municipality. So having that kind of helps to support the entrepreneurship, support the innovation with the science. So it's about leveraging, creating, I wouldn't say authority, but a gentler word for authority. So kind of like a credible acknowledgement of these persons and their work so that they can advise on these projects. There was also the acknowledgement that there are priority tasks that already exist for like EU Caribe, and they can help to support and enable some of these activities, as well as there was a suggestion of an involvement of end users and local communities at Coast Predict meetings. You know, these persons need to be heard, listened to, and they can help to inform us of priorities, you know, just understanding local needs. Right, so we also did not entirely have a great understanding of the cloud infrastructure. And so there was the acknowledgement that I didn't have it, as well as that there's a lack of transparency and a communication about how it's going to use, how different stakeholders are going to interact with the cloud infrastructure. And Coast Predict made a commitment to kind of help fill in that gap, as well as how it should be organized to serve management in the coastal zone and analysis of satellite, yeah, this is my shorthand, of satellite and modeling outputs for the usage of real-time data. We acknowledge that there have been several different iterations of surveys in the region that has assessed capacity for cloud infrastructure, so we didn't really focus on that in the discussion. However, we did have a discussion about wish lists. So, you know, if we were to have this very nice fairy tale of the cloud infrastructure, what would you like it to be? What purpose would you like it to serve? So these are some of these suggestions. If you're familiar with Google Earth Engine, there was a suggestion of using a similar kind of platform or interface to have the visualization of real-time data that can be downloaded and available near real-time on a daily scale. As well as the inclusion of downscale models and even understanding, again, what kind of users is going to be using the cloud interface so that it can be made in a way that's useful. Right, okay, so, oh wait, that was the second question? I'm almost done. So the third question is about capacity training. We had a lot of suggestions and a lot of great suggestions. I would have grouped them with some very broad headings, but there was also a discussion on the fact that we have 5 years left for the decade, which means we have 5 years left to do this, and so we identified a priority. We acknowledge that the stakeholder engagement training helps to inform the technical training, and so that should be prioritized, and then we can focus on the technical training and the execution of the ocean literacy and public awareness campaigns. I wanted to highlight a very interesting suggestion. So I think Francisco suggested that in public education, to inform their engagement, they look at the social determinants of health. And there was a suggestion of us trying to understand what are the social determinants of increasing coastal resilience. So, you know, if you think about the converse, how do we decrease vulnerability? How do we increase resilience? And then trying to execute that campaign with that in mind so that it's more impactful and has like meaningful change coming out of it. As well as the suggestion to use strategies for effective and authentic engagement. So very similar to what was mentioned before, you know, they can use their tigers and their crocodiles. We know there are marketing strategies that are very effective, and there's no reason why we shouldn't tap into and leverage those things. The technical training, quite a number of suggestions. We also acknowledge that there are very successful campaigns that already exist, so maybe we just try to replicate for our region, as well as doing it in collaboration with regional training centers that already exist. Yeah, I'll stop there because I've been warned. Thank you so much. And if I missed anything, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Lots of very fruitful suggestions. So the last, but not least, finally was it Mediterranean? Yes. Who's? Salvatore. Okay. Salvatore, please.
Good morning, everyone. So our discussion was based on the document. So we start from the menu. We go through the menu, trying to comment point by point what we could include, what we could exclude. So let's start. So our point of view, I mean, was focused really on the menu. Okay, we start, of course, describing the question. I can skip it. First of all, we draw a couple of main conclusions. The first one is the fact we stress the need of integration of cooperation more strictly with hydrological and meteorological offices. We identified that in our region, so in the Mediterranean Sea, specifically in Croatia, one pilot is driven by the Met Office. So the idea was to have a more strict relation with this, because this could improve our, capability in discussing with the SENWF. But at the same time, we could try to avoid some overlapping of activities. We will check this later when we'll discuss about the observation. The second point is here we are going to share with you. You can find also in the menu of application, or the menu in you have this. You can find this seminal paper, which is about the difficulties of integrating different systems. So the idea is, for definition purposes of this work, we have to build some building blocks. But at a certain point, someone could start working on one building blocks, so losing the idea of the perfect integration. So in this paper, they discuss about all the difficulties you can find in integrating different systems. So we suggest you to have a look at. Let's start with the first question. We start with the discussion about what we are going to do. I can skip it. And going through the document, we start working on variables. We identified two main topics, I mean, about the socioeconomics, because we know we need the digital terrain model, of course, but what is important should be included is the building representation. For instance, not only the presence, I mean, of the build, but also their value and their characteristics. Of course, we know that this could be a gap. I mean, not always these data are available, so at least we have to start from topography, from bathymetry, of course. But where they are available, this information should be included and reported in the document. And for biogeochemistry, of course, what we found is that we should be aware about the full carbon cycle. So we should be confident that we are monitoring this, so the carbon dioxide through the carbon in general through all the cycle. So concerning the observation, sorry, but here I'm a bit biased, so I I put it in the first line. So probably the waves are the most important, of course, including new processes as a swash, run up, set up, overtopping. Sorry, there I wrote wrongly, but of course, the sea level rise is probably one of the most important. And we stress the fact that we could having a look to the possibility to have a river discharge mapping through different approach using altimetry and optical sensor, because of course we can complement each other to having this like I mean like a flooding forecasting. And according to this, we found out that flooding should be included again into the document. We missed, and this would be important, for instance, just of course to create a data set for what happened, but is important also for validation, for model validation. Another point is bathymetry derived and topography, which should be, of course, they should match each other. I mean, this is very important. They should coincide. And what is important is that if you have a continuous acquisition of this, we can also have the impact, for instance, of erosion, a specific event, and so on. According to the in-situ observation, we stress the point of the citizen science. We know they are very powerful. We've seen a lot of examples during these days. The collab approach, I miss an A there, I can fix it. The collab approach is an example of which allowed to have replicability in multi-parametric surveys. This should be, I mean, take in mind when you have to do some observation surveys. Marine animal in general, and turtle has been brought as an example of cost-effective in situ observation. In fact, they can map temperature and light penetration, which can be used for instance, for validating satellites. We are working on salinity. I mean, there is a work on that. What about precipitation? Because we missed it in situ this sensor, so we have to include it. We know that in satellite this is taken into account, so of course it should be this pressure related to the precipitation sensor, but also is important for storm surge. We identified the cost as the limit in general for in situ. So we are pushing toward cost-effective tools, as in case, for instance, of wave buoy. We know that large can cost even hundreds of thousands of euro, but there are some tools which are more affordable. I mean, they can much cheaper. They few tens of euro. I mean, we can set up one. Okay, we stress again the fact that we have to collaborate with this agency, and we stress the role of observation. So we are always asking for data. We have AI model which can be, of course, complement the numerical model. In some cases, we are going to use to replace for short-term forecasting, but they are data-driven. So we need more data as we have, because otherwise we are just doubling, using this, we are training this artificial intelligence model on numerical model. So it could be, not so fair. Downscaling, data assimilation, because we are starting to have a lot of data cost, we are working on the assimilation of the data. So we are improving our capability in including the data assimilation also for unstructured grid model. We already anticipated the fact that, okay, the artificial intelligence is a very powerful tool for improving storm storage, and also waves, but in pure data-driven mode, but of course if we have the data. We missed into the menu, and we have to add a paragraph about the coupled system in general dedicated to a stream. We had the example of the Croatia pilot, in which they are working on this unstructured system, fully coupled within circulation wave atmosphere, but not including a river. So here we found the point of collaboration with CMCC. About the application, of course, we included the oil spill, a digital twin. We understood it's a bit more complex, and we know that, and we will include into the menu, the marine CDR, which was neglected. Of course, this is require high resolution, it's site specific, but should be included in the future. According to the cloud, so point 2, we will have this prototype where the user will use some Jupyter notebook, so it's just opening a browser. They can start interacting with this data. We underline the fact that, as we already anticipated a lot of time during this day, the bottleneck is the connection, is not the structure itself. And we start to gather information about the requirement. So exactly what the pilot side would like to, and the partner would like to put on the cloud. For instance, if you need and you want to put a spectrum from waves, you need a lot of data. So it's important, a good planning for this topic. Climate downscaling, we refer to the fact that all the climate simulation should be associated with the validation of the past. And we understood that we have to update one picture into the document we missed. Okay, so concerning the enhancing capacity, we understood that we have to work on 2 different levels. One of training, of course. One is for people inside the cost predict, and the other one is for people outside, for stakeholder in general. What is very important is that if you are going to address local stakeholder, you have to think about the language, because sometimes giving lecture, training, workshop all in English would be, scary for some people. So we have always to separate this. So we took the opportunity to check, to ask you to check if you are in the mailing list for the workshop. So please contact us if you are not, so we can include and disseminate this information. According to the dissemination of these events, we thought that it could be important to share all the information, so all the training in general, even the one from Copernicus, not only ours. This could help us to grow all together. And what would be important, again, probably we could try to think about best practice for these activities. We know, I mean, we have some experience here, for instance, for the schools we mentioned during this day. So we could, so each pilot could try to put some guidelines for development, and we can follow all together this information. And we concluded.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Salvatore. Okay, so we've seen all the feedback from the different regions. And I think there's definitely similarities and there's distinct differences in terms of the details and specifics that groups have focused on, depending on region. But now I guess we have a bit of time for some comments, questions, or that anyone has overall. Yes, Billy. Oh.
I want to invite, now we have Nadia back and Giovanni's here too. It would be nice to have a little discussion on the cloud because Nadia, you were not here. There was a lot of emphasis on how much confusion there is about the cloud and computing through the cloud. Is there maybe a specific question that someone wants to start with and we'll try to discuss?
Well, yeah, Annabella there, and then just to clarify, then Annabella, I mean, what we plan to do, what we are going to do with EGI and Coris team is to develop in 2025 a prototype which will serve plus one, I mean, one or two region to be still to be decided, and with few pilot sites in each region to demonstrate that is doable, this approach, that is the products and services will be interoperable. The minimum products that we will put are global and regional models and, if available, local models products. Imagine a bulk upload of products to be available on the cloud, plus Notebook Jupyter hub available for, and we have already tested in other clouds, so I think it's doable. And Notebook Jupyter will be available for the pilot sites people to test the usability, how friendly is the system, how useful, and so on. Then progressively we will move towards data upload, observation upload, either from external data source, a ModNet, NOAA, whatever, Copernicus, and local data source, focus on citizen science. Next step, now don't ask me which months of 2025, 2026, will be to run a model, so deploy a model on the cloud and run it on the cloud. Of course, we need to check the availability of core hours and space, but should be doable very soon. And then phase 3 and 4 in the menu of solution will be more for AI products and further. Sorry, in the initial phase, we will also deploy services, decision support system services, such as an example, OSP forecasting system, just to make an example out of the menu of solution. That is the idea, the plan we will discuss today. We will continue. We have a working group with AGI, Coris, and CMCC. And most important is that AGI has already, and that was maybe confusing last day during Nicola presentation, AGI has already found some free of charge resources provided by one of their members, which is TÜBİTAK in Turkey. That has made the resources available, and this is already available to develop the prototype. So that's where we are now. Annabella, sorry.
Just to add on what you said, I think that the confusion, at least in our group, had to do in the way how people can use the cloud. to do their simulations or their data processing. So my suggestion, and I talk a little bit with Fabrizio on the break, that we should promote a training using, for instance, the example as a guinea pig, so while people can see what can be done, on how to use the resources, how to access, how to put the information there.
Yeah,
For
sure,
instance,
this
the model
will be
setup.
part of the training, sure.
I
mean,
think that's very important.
in the
At least
first
from my point of
phase-
view,
Yeah.
sorry, we have gone from this procedure since 2018 up to the point that we are now fully independent to put our things on the containers that are provided for our service. And we are able to upgrade the system independently, so we don't need HGI people to help us. But people need to know how to do this, what they need to do, and most importantly, that infrastructure will be updated now and then. So we'll need to look at issues like recompiling the models to the new operative system, putting in new features. So that is something that I think the people in this room would benefit a lot from having training. We have went through that procedure in the past, and it really helped us to be independent now, to do our job without the IT people along. Just a suggestion.
No, thank you, Annabella. I mean,
Okay.
just to answer, and then Jason. Yes, the phase where model will be available in the cloud is phase 2 and 3. So we decided, let's say, in the CORIS and with the AGI to start from more data analysis, and then modeling will come later. It's because we want to start to provide solutions shareable with the different pilot sites. And so step by step, yes, the modeling will come, and training is essential. And yes, I mean, as soon as we are ready with the prototype, we will do the training associated, and it will be done in 2005, quarter 3 or 4, I guess. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, that partially answers my question, which was assuring we develop the interfaces between local systems and the cloud systems so that the data pipelines between people's individual high-performance computing resources and the cloud data services are well described, how data is essentially transferred from one to the other. And that's not a trivial business, and there are questions of kind of formats and translation there which need to be gone through. Yeah.
No, that's part of the design we are discussing with the CORIS people. I mean, ProtoCoast, the prototype. ProtoCoast is the prototype.
Look in the next month or so, there will be a website for that.
No, yeah, but Jason was also asking, if I understood well, how
because there will be the explanation how to access and what are the services that are available.
Yeah. But I mean, a technical example, for example, is I might have data in NetCDF. You might require data in ZAR. How do I get from NetCDF to ZAR, for example?
well, there is
But you are-
there is in the CORIS project, and we will add more information in the menu of solution. It has been discussed and also with Pangeo community, and how to transfer the NetCDF into with the metadata so that they will be fully accessible on the cloud. So this is part of the prototype.
Brilliant.
So just to say that in the first prototype, the data will be optimized for being available on the cloud. That's why we will not start from the climate projection, because I think it's too much demanding. We will start from a more 2 years simulation in the past, make them available, use the node of Jupyter, and then progressively enlarge. No, sorry.
No, it's very important to that this afternoon you define better the phase and you make it available as a design. There is also another opportunity as University of Bologna. We have working with us one of the masterpieces of software for the cloud, Rich Signal. And he will give lectures, and I could arrange, sorry, why does it, okay. So, and I could arrange for such course he will give on the data format, on how to upload different kind of data to the cloud. I just want to remind you that Rich is the constructor of AirDAP, the only software that really can work is interoperable between model dataset and observational dataset. So I don't know if you have ever used AirDAP, but has been adopted by WMO as the frontier software for WIS, for the WMO information system, and for many of us to store the data, observational and model data. And so he has transformed that software into a cloud software. And he will also illustrate how to, for the climate data, so we should be in touch, Jason, having also your expertise in that discussion. He has also found a way to use artificial intelligence to decimate the data transfer, and reconstruction of the same data on the cloud. So very advanced. It is an NSF financed, hopefully, initiative. And they have already several prototypes around US that have been deployed. It's all free software, open source software, fantastically efficient. And I will so make a point that the course should be disseminated to the Cost Predict community. Okay, so if we are capable of doing it, it will be done in April or May. Okay, depends on the bureaucracy, if I can get there.
Okay. Bevan?
Another thing which we at least discussed in our group was, the regions which are probably challenged by internet. So the issue is whether cloud is the right solution. So for example, just to give you an example, the Hunga, Hapai, Hunga, Tonga volcanic eruption and the associated tsunamis after that in Tonga. The country was without internet for several days, and I'm not sure, probably weeks. And the only systems which were working in Tonga was, those systems which were, driven locally. And they were used for, providing forecasts and warnings, etc. So, so that's another issue probably which needs some clarification. It's not that. So what we discuss is probably some regions may need a bit of investigation of feasibility of cloud computing. We don't know the answer, but yeah. So that's another thing probably which needs some consideration.
It's a concern. I mean, we have seen also with the presentation, online presentation, we have problems of internet connection in the not only in the global south, but I guess we need to discuss it. We need to find solution together with your experience for sure. I don't have the solution now.
I mean, one comment on that is the use of lightweight forecast systems that run on your desktop computer that will using containerizations to easily deploy them, and so they have then limited use of internet. Of course, the presence of driving data for them is always going to be a restriction, that you do have to have forms of driving data. But I mean, one system that we worked in Madagascar was where faxes of hurricane tracks were then assimilated into different, were manually assimilated into systems to provide short-term forecasts without access to internet. So there are kind of workarounds on that.
Thank you. So I guess that's there's that range of access to internet and that cloud infrastructure that needs to be also looked into more. But, oh, here you go.
Yes, I have a comment. Perhaps we'll start for the general comment. So we have this cost predict flyer that was announced, is public available, and we use to socialize the cost predict. When we are challenges to discuss with even in the regional groups, so now we need to have in our pilot site drafting, there was a request to have a sort of a more specific flyer or concept note for discussion with the policy makers that will endorse this initiative through the adaptation fund. So you offer us to draft this flyer or this concept note, and also to translate, because we need to have this English, French, and Spanish in this group. And now looking on this cloud, because there is really, this is the wonderful, this is the miracle that will help us, but we need to understand how it will work. So Jay or someone together with Annabella, with you, need to draft a concept to try to understand what is about, and then to develop these limitations, requirements, and everything. So it will be, I think, looking on our discussion, this will be a matter to consider.
Yeah, I think there's a certain level. I mean, there's that very technical level of the discussion of the cloud, and some are already familiar with that. But then there's the other side. The concept is it's cloudy. Sorry. So and there's this some lack of trust because it's unfamiliar still for many of some of the pilot sites. So I guess that transparency of what is it really, how what is it supposed to do and be useful for in the specific sites and solutions that we want. Why is this important? How is it going to be really useful? Why do we want to pursue it? Especially if we're going to the adaptation fund and convincing people to share information and maybe be responsible for some of it eventually down the line.
Any other comment?
But I guess you'll just comment. For the menu of solutions, there's still at least a week to comment and input.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's important to have your inputs there. So please do take the time to look into more detail and put in the details. Thanks.
Okay. So, thank you for the discussion and for the rapporteurs to prepare everything. And I leave the floor for a moment to Willy, and then we move.